Hey guys, this is Coach KP, and today I'm going to talk about what can we do when self-righteous judgment comes up um, as we're going about in our daily lives, right? So, self-righteous judgment plagues people of all nature, um, some more so than others, but this is a theme that emerges in a lot of people's lives. And if you think you don't have any self-righteous coming up or it has ever come up for you, then you may need to look a little deeper because it's there and it's probably judging my video right now as I'm talking about it, right? So, what do we do when self-righteous judgment comes up? One of the things that I have gone through in the last few years, last few months, especially during the pandemic, is that I saw a lot of self-righteous judgment coming up. A lot of it. Like I thought at one point that everybody else is an idiot but me, right? And I was allowing that to subconsciously allowing that to show up in my interpersonal relationships until I realized that wow, there is a lot of judgment of other people that I have that I did not realize was a part of me. And understanding that has allowed me to see the depth. One of the things that I did was to go into the depth of that. I allowed myself to actually experience those emotions, those feelings, those thoughts fully. What does it mean for me to judge others? Why am I judging others so harshly, right? And as I was doing that, what I started to see was how frivolous and ridiculous some of these judgments that I had placed other people on other people were. How ridiculous the nature of these judgments were, how petty these thoughts were, right? We all like to sit and think that we may not judge others, right? I have thought about, myself as someone that's non-judgmental, someone that's open-minded quite a lot in my life. But at the other end of it, there is a lot of judgment that we all have to work through because as a part of growing up, as we've been socially conditioned to think of one path in life as the right path to walk, and parents do this unconsciously to their kids because they want their kids to have similar life choices as them. Most parents do, or they would try to make their kids pick the right path, and that right path is something that they would consider is correct for the kid. As a part of that, what ends up happening is whatever is outside of the spectrum of that universe is automatically deemed as something that we don't do, that our family system does not do, or something that we do not resonate with. And it's part of growing up, part of trying to become our own people as we grow older. We may be able to shed some of that belief, but there also will be some beliefs that we adhere to very strongly, whether we realize it or not. So one of the examples I can give you is that in my family of origin, what my parents thought was that somebody that is educated, highly educated, is a better human being than somebody that's not. I mean, they didn't say it in these words, but that was kind of implied. That somebody's educated means they deserve more respect, right? And it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that education is not an indication of how good a person is, how good their heart is, what they bring to this planet necessarily, right? I mean, obviously having education has its purpose, but automatically should not disqualify somebody as a bad person or somebody that's not worthy of equal treatment as this person with higher education, right? So that was one of the conditioning. And that made, if I wasn't aware that that was happening in my mind, what I would then do is judge everybody that's not educated as ignorant, or dismiss them for the lack of a proper education. But in reality, there is a lot of people that are educated that I would never want to hang out with, because they've just like rubbed me the wrong way in the past. On the other hand, there are plenty of people that haven't had formal education that have been my mentor and mentors throughout my life, and they've helped me tremendously. So, it's immaterial to me at this point in my life what education, or having or not having education, is in terms of how I deal with people. But that was a big thing for me, and I had to work through that quite a lot. So that was an example. So when self-righteous judgment starts to come up, what we can then do is not try to shove it somewhere that you cannot see, at least temporarily, but let it really come out to play, right? What are these thoughts like? What's the texture of your feeling when you are observing these thoughts? How does that make you feel towards this other person, towards yourself, right? We can observe, again, that metacognition, the ability to observe our thoughts. We all have that, and we need to exercise that aspect of our being, the consciousness aspect of our being, to govern these thoughts, whatever's coming up. All right, so I'm really being harsh on this person, and I'm judging X, Y, and Z that they are doing and not doing. Okay, I don't need to judge myself for that, and that's a key, right? We shouldn't get into this what's right, what's wrong when we're observing our thoughts. We just observe them and let it pass, because it's gonna pass at some point. It may last 20 minutes or 2 hours, but these thoughts are gonna morph into something else. And if whatever's coming up is another self-righteous thought, let's engage that. Let's see what this thought is trying to say to us about this other person. And then as we observe these thoughts, we start to realize how ridiculous these thoughts are, and how they are keeping us in a cocoon of perceived safety, and how they are distancing us from these people that we are judging, and are causing barriers in our relationships. Quite interestingly, not just in that particular relationship, but in many other relationships that we hadn't even thought about in that way, right? And once we start to observe the positive qualities that emerge out of learning why we may even have started to judge other people this harshly, right? We start to learn that it is really discernment, right? It's really the lighter side of self-righteous judgment can be seen as discernment, where we are judging a person or a circumstance because we don't want to get into a negative situation, right? And it allows us to kind of save ourselves from getting into a situation that we may not necessarily want to get into. But that has to come from a space of investigation. That has to come from a space of curiosity for it to be fully effective. Because, in our journey, there are infinite possibilities, right? And how we perceive things unfolding may be erroneous, right? It may not be exactly how reality is, whatever we are perceiving. So when we are fixated on that judgment, we really narrow our vision to that one dominating thought about judging this person or the situation. But when we choose to be curious, when we choose to say that, okay, these judgmental thoughts are coming up, let me open up to the fact that there may be more things underneath the surface than what I'm just choosing to focus on, then our vision just gets blown into seeing the entire spectrum of possibilities. That's what I'm saying today in this video. And these are lower self qualities. Self-righteous judgment is not I guarantee you it's not just you that's feeling this. There's 7.5 billion people in this planet, and 7.5 billion people, every single one of them is self-righteous to a degree. Some of us have transformed the self-righteousness into discernment, and the rest of us are kind of still stuck there, trying to get out of it, and it's okay. Wherever we are, we start there, right? So next time a judgmental thought about another person comes up, let's allow all of it to come to consciousness and see how frivolous and petty these thoughts are, so we can get out of them. Okay, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section below, and let's talk about it, because hey, there are infinite possibilities. Okay, Coach KP, peace.